Okay, I'm getting there, guys. I had to get online there. It was being stubborn this morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Vida. Thank you.
All right,
Good
thanks.
morning, everybody.
Good morning. Okay, so we have everybody but Ken.
That is affirmative.
Okay. All right, what time is it? 9:03. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and while we're waiting for Ken, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. The Lyon County Board of Commissioners, this is Monday, May 23rd, 2022 at about 9:03 a.m. Action will be taken on all items unless otherwise noted. No action will be taken on any item until it's properly agendized. To avoid meeting disruptions, please place cell phones and beepers in the silent mode or turn them off during the meeting. The board reserves the right to take items in a different order to accomplish business in the most efficient manner. Items may be combined for consideration and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Restrictions on comments by the general public. Any such restrictions must be reasonable and may restrict the time, place, and manner of the comments, but may not restrict comments based upon viewpoint. Board of Commissioners special meeting. All or some Board of Commission members may elect to call into this meeting. The public can access this meeting at the above address, and that is on the front page. And if you go to the agenda center. Roll call, we have Commissioner Jacobson, I see is online with me. Commissioner Hockaday and Commissioner Henderson is in chambers. At this time, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Jeff, if you could lead us, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, while Kim's getting seated, we'll go to public participation. No action will be taken on any item until it's properly agendized. It is anticipated that public participation will be held at this time, though it may be returned to at any time during this agenda. Citizens wishing to speak during public participation are asked to state their name for the record and will be limited to 3 minutes. The board will conduct public comment after discussion of each agenda action item, but before the board takes any action. Do I have any public participation at this time for something that's not on the agenda?
Are we going to do public participation for that item today?
Do we have somebody, Jeff?
That's negative.
Oh, okay. All right, no public participation at this time. And Ken, are you ready?
I am, thank you.
Okay, if you take over at number 4, please.
Thank you. I apologize, everybody, for being late. So item number 4, possible action, review, and adoption of agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion in a couple seconds. Any discussion on the item? Public comment? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 5, county manager, possible action, discussion, and possible revision on allocation of ARPA funding and budget. Mr. Page.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, members of the public. Jeff Page, County Manager for the record. Before you today, at the request of the board, is a discussion of the ARPA allocations and how we're going to address some of the concerns that staff or board members have expressed. So from this point forward, I'll turn over to Mr. Foley and we can start moving forward from there.
Monday morning for all of us. Josh Foley, Lyon County Comptroller for the record. So a few things that we've discussed previously that I want to reiterate for the board as they're making considerations on any possible revisions to the funding. A few projects that have come in that I'm trying to get board direction on how we can proceed on these because we don't have enough money allocated for them. I'll start off with the biggest ticket item that came up last board meeting, and that is the effluent disposal at the Dayton Sewer. And that project, just to recap, we are putting in a line from the sewer plant a couple miles away, and then we are doing rapid infiltration basins there. And those rapid infiltration basins are just basically big holes in the ground that they rip wrap, and they put the effluent into it, and it drains into the ground over time. And we need to be able to do that so we can not have violations for NDP. We're under NDP order to move forward with that project. So when we originally started this project a few years ago, we got the engineer's estimate. The estimate came in for a certain dollar amount. We didn't have enough money to do it. So we told the state revolving fund, which is loaning us money. We said, we have X amount of our own dollars to do it. And they said, we will loan you up to $20 million for this project and 2 others. And so we went through and did a bonding project on that for $20 million. And now NDP has increased the requirements for that substantially because it's categorized as a dam now. And so that increased the cost an estimated $700,000 more. So we've already put forth the money that we have. We've borrowed money and increased user rates to be able to pay the borrowed money back. And now it's going to be over and above that. And we I suppose could go bond again, but if you do that, we go right back through the rate process. How are we going to pay these bonds back and look at increasing rates again? So that $700,000 is something I strongly recommend that the board consider today as we're looking at reallocating funding. The second project that the board had previous discussions on would be the expansion of the Fernley Justice Court. And that's to make it so that there's room for a jury trial and that it's secure for those jury trials that are being held only for domestic battery cases where they're taking away the Second Amendment rights of the defendant. And that project is approximately $400,000 less than what it would be anticipated to actually pay for that project. We don't have additional funding for that project. Technically, there are court facility fees that are charged, but those are all allocated towards the Dayton court, which again, we're doing the exact same thing there, building a court or changing the courts so that we can accommodate jury trials. And all of that money has been allocated in Dayton towards that project. In addition to that, we have a couple of other projects, if we're taking a look at those, which would be at the fairgrounds, we have replacement asphalt. That was the quote for the actual work to be done. However, for us to do that project, we have to contract with an engineer to do bid specifications because it's over $100,000. And so that does have a cost to it. And so I'm recommending we look at about $30,000 to add to that. The same thing for the bucking chutes. If that comes in over $100,000, which the original estimate was, then we have, anytime projects over $100,000, we have to go out to bid by state statute. And that requires that we have to have engineering specifications so that all of the bids can be considered and have the same set of specifications that they're drawing.
So what was that? What are you looking at for that one?
We have had a number of discussions on whether we can bring that project in at 100,000, but I would just say let's estimate about $30,000 there just in case on that as well. And then we've had a discussion on the Mound House Community Center that's, we don't believe with all the site work and all the things to meet county code that have to be done there, that the amount that was allocated, the million was allocated, would actually get us to the end result that we need on that. And so the challenge is, as we get into this on the funding, if we don't have all the funding sources done and ready on that building, we're going into it and we'll have half a building, and I have no additional funding sources in the budget for the next 4 years to be able to help with that at this point, based on the board's priorities of the Dayton Government Center and the remodel of the district court. So those are the significant items that I have to bring forward to you.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Keller.
So Josh, I want to take a little different approach to this instead of, trying to figure out what we're eliminating I would like to look at the big ticket items of what we need to include and then see what's left. So if we go with the Fernley Justice Court, for example, add in what's needed in Dayton. I'm trying to look here.
And Jeff has a spreadsheet that's on the.
Like the bucking chutes, before somebody gets injured, those items that are more critical. I'd like to kind of find out where we're at on a dollar amount there before moving forward. And I'm not sure if Commissioner Jacobson has a question for me or for the board, but anyways, that's the direction I would like to go. I'd like to identify what's critical. What do we have to pay for? I would love to give everybody money, but that's not going to happen. I haven't had any rainbows with pots of gold lately, so I will shut up for the moment and find out what Commissioner Jacobson is thinking about.
Thank you, Commissioner Keller. Chairman Gray, if I may, I agree with Vida on that. I think we need to find out. I'm not in the mood to raise taxes in Dayton for faulty pipe that we learned about at our last meeting. So I agree that's probably a priority. Well, it is a priority. And I'm not trying to put words in Commissioner Keller's mouth when I say that. I think with the Fernley Justice Court, I think if we purchased a metal detector and put a few Band-Aids on it, we could significantly decrease the amount there. I'm a big fan of working with the city of Fernley on that. I don't think we've done that. And I know that that's not popular to say, working with the city of Fernley, but I think we can do some of that and significantly decrease the amount going right now. I'm a big fan of finishing the Dayton Justice Complex before we start biting off more and more of these huge government complexes, such as redoing the jury boxes and all that. And then while I'm a big fan of the Mound House Community Center, we don't know if there's a kitchen in there. We don't really know the size, the cost. I'm just very hesitant to allocate these funds on a project where we have yet to see. I mean, are we reaching out to work with the Pennington? How are we going to pay for the upkeep maintenance of this facility in Mound House? I'm all for it. I would love to have it, but I just struggle with so many unknowns on on those two projects that times are tight, inflation's going up, cost of construction is going up. And with those unknowns, I think we can put a Band-Aid and do some things to make it more secure at a lot greater savings from the Fernley Justice Court as well. So those are my two thoughts.
Thanks, Rob. I concur with you on those as well. I'm going to go over to Commissioner Henderson now, who's got his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really kind of disappointed we're here today. I thought we had got this put to bed, but obviously we don't. However, that being said, that's given me time to think about this. And I want to go about this in a totally different way than what we've been doing. We have, don't go too far. Don't go too far at all. We already have money put aside in our capital improvement budget for the Dayton complex and for part of the Fernley Justice Complex. Is that correct?
So we have no money set aside for the Fernley Justice Complex. We have money set aside for the Dayton Government Complex, and we estimate it's probably going to take us 3 years to continue if we put all of the PILT funding that comes in for the next 3 years towards that project.
Okay, because
And maybe 4 years, it just depends.
okay, and this may be coming out of left field, but I'm going to come out of left field on this one. I know that we do have a need at some point for a Dayton Regional Justice or Dayton Regional Government Complex. However, to me right now, that is more of a want. Whereas the upgrades to justice courts are a need because that has been directed by the legislature that we do that and the Supreme Court. One thing I thought I would rather take money away that we've got stocked up for the Dayton building, put it into the Fernley Justice Court building instead of using 1.8 million of ARPA money for that. And then that would free up a lot of ARPA money for us to do these other things that we need to do. I also have some questions about the improvements to the fair and rodeo grounds. I'm not saying they're not needed, but I'm kind of curious as to why that's kind of not like an enterprise fund and being paid for by the user fees or the admission fees, or, you know, why hasn't that been, doesn't matter why it hasn't been taken care of until now, but it is to this point. So it's got to be fixed. But what that's just something to me, I think should be ongoing, that should be paid for by the people that use the facilities and not by everybody else.
And I can address all of those questions if and when you would like me to. You want me to?
Please, yeah.
Okay, so the Dayton Government Complex, the original need for the Dayton Government Complex is because the existing building of the Dayton Justice Court will not accommodate jury trials. In fact, it really doesn't accommodate court currently. You don't have any separation. The defendants and the both sides, prosecutors and defendants, are sitting as far apart as the two of you are right now, sometimes closer. And so that is not a good security situation for them to be in there. Plus, they can't do jury trials in there because of the way it's set up. Can we put a jury trial in there? Yes. Should we? No. And so that's the whole driving force behind doing a government complex in Dayton, is to take care of the court. While we're at it, it's better to put the sheriff's office and the district attorney's office in with the court while you're doing it, instead of trying to add it on later. And so that was the reason why we put that all in a single project and did that. We don't have to put human services in there. We can stay in lease space, but you got to lease space, which costs you less. And they have funding out of the medical special or the medical imaging fund to contribute towards the building. So putting them all in one space makes sense operationally, from janitorial to facilities to operational of the departments between each other as well. So that was the thought process there. Of course, the board has the ability to make any changes they want to. I'm just giving you the benefit of why we are recommending what we're recommending. As far as the fairgrounds, what has been set up, and we can always revisit that, but what has been set up by the Board of County Commissioners is that the fair board and the fund for that, they are tasked with managing the fairgrounds and putting on annual fair and rodeo. So the fair and rodeo fund strictly is the revenues that are generated there for the fair and rodeo and the putting on of the event. Has nothing to do, pays for zero on operational, pays for zero on capital. And if you decide you want to put that into their fund on the operations, maintenance, and capital, you will no longer have a fair and rodeo. There just isn't enough money to do it. It can't, you might as well just close the facility. And if that's what the board wishes to do, that's a discussion for the board. But I'm just letting the board know that I can't get you there. I don't know any other way to get you there. As far as the Fernley Court, again, the reason we're looking at doing that is the remodel there is to provide a jury room, to provide adequate space in the court itself to provide jury selection and the trials.
Yeah, I'm not questioning the need.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I was covering everything.
I'm just questioning the funding source, you know, because that's a big chunk of ARPA money where we could use capital improvement money for that instead. Yes, I understand the thought process for the Dayton complex, but we're existing now. We could continue to exist. We could find a less expensive option for the trials. And while we're talking about the Dayton Justice Complex, there was a lot of pushback from the constituents on the location of that, where it was going to be. You know, and a lot of people don't like the plans, and there may be other options out there that we may want to explore. So that's my thoughts. I'm, you know, like I said, I didn't think we were going to come back to this, but when we did, so my mind started thinking about other alternatives. The projects that we funded, I think, are all worthwhile and beneficial. I would hate to gut a lot of this when we have other assets available that could take care of the Fernley Justice Court. Yes, it would cause a delay for the Dayton Government Complex, but it's not going to happen tomorrow anyway. Just my thoughts. Mr. Page.
Jeff Page, County Manager. So I have obviously some concerns. We don't, the jury for both these courts is not an option. We don't have a choice in this matter. This is what the Supreme Court of the state of Nevada says we are going to do. We are going to have jury trials for anybody arrested for a domestic violence case. If that results in their conviction, and then they get their Second Amendment rights removed. We don't have a choice in that matter.
I understand that.
So we have a situation now where we have two courts that don't meet the requirements. We're keep pushing back trials because they have no place to hold the trials. And the further we push it back, the more those cases are going to be either sitting in limbo or deferred prosecution, and the person who is potentially guilty of the domestic violence is now being prosecuted for a lesser charge so they could just get the case through. At the same time, I don't know if you've been to the Dayton Justice Court or not. It is probably the most difficult building we have to do anything in because it's a historic building. Even if we had the room in the courtroom to put a jury box, it's going to cost us significantly more money to do the jury box because it's a historic building. So the challenge I have is that we could defer building the Dayton Government Center. We can defer to Fernley Justice Court. What are we going to do when the court says we're done? Here's the order. Get it done.
And I'm not saying we defer the Fernley Justice Court. I'm saying we fund it from a different source. I'm saying we can find an alternative to hold jury trials in Dayton without, because the building is not going to be built for what, 5 or 7 years now. What are we going to do in the meantime? Okay, 3 years. That if everything falls into place, right?
Josh Fuller, Lyon County Comptroller for the record. We have the conceptual plans almost finished. In fact, they should be finished within a month. That would be coming back to the board. At that point, if the board continues with the existing funding that's there, we would do the construction plans. It would go out to bid in January, and then it would probably be a 1.5 to 2 year construction timeframe. Could be less if the supply chain becomes less of an issue as time goes forward. Who knows if it will or it won't, but with outlook of possible recession, it may free up supply chain so it gets done more quickly. But that's the existing time.
So a minimum of 3 years.
I would say a minimum of 2.5 years, or well, I would say a minimum of 2 years, more likely 2.5 years.
This is a government project we're talking about.
I understand. I have managed dozens of government projects since I've been here. In fact, I managed Jeff and I managed the biggest one you've had in the history of Lyon County. We know how to take care of those. So I would say you're probably looking at somewhere around 2 years, it's possibly 2.5 years.
Okay, so we have to have an interim solution for those 2 years anyway.
You have a quote unquote interim solution. It's just not a good solution.
Okay.
Yes.
Chairman Gray.
Please.
You know, the elephant in the room here is that last year we worked ARPA funds. Everything went smooth. Why? Because we were pretty much told that we needed about $3.5 million to work on projects up north. Well, agreed. Fine. No problem. This time we came back. We got another $6 million rolling in. I made this comment before. We go out to this different thing. Let's go out and see what the community needs. So we have a whole day of listening to the community. Then after we get all done with this work, we have, well, we really needed the money for other things. had we discussed some of these things, and this is just for all of a learning process, we should have discussed the things we really needed, because as far as I was concerned, this was money that came in from the feds. We never planned on it. It didn't change any of the plans that we had for our projects. And all of a sudden it did. So here we are again, second day working on a project that should have been done basically in a couple hours, a couple months ago. So I'm a little frustrated at that. I don't have a problem. And you know, I talked to you over a year ago about money coming in and paying for what we really need so we don't waste taxpayer dollars. I don't want to waste taxpayer dollars now, whether they're federal dollars or our dollars. But we've sat here and had people promised things, activities, projects, and repair jobs across the county. And now we're kind of going back saying, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that. So as I said, I'll slap myself in the head too. Probably should have pushed hard on it before. I know where we need the money. You know where we need the money. I think we need to sit down and try to figure out how we're going to resolve this situation so that we can get some of these taken care of. I know we've got PILT money coming in. We've talked about that for a year, whether it comes in from the feds or not. That needs to be considered. I do agree with Commissioner Henderson that some of these things have been planned and we know we're going to have to get them done, but they have been planned. So this money may help. I'm just hoping we can get some of these other liability issues and other projects that we do need in the community taken care of today and get this over with and move on.
Commissioner Keller.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I mean, I appreciate, where everybody stands on this, but we got to remember when we first started looking at the ARPA funds and, Commissioner Hockaday, I totally feel your pain on this, but the inflation has really killed us. I mean, we really did not know in the beginning that we were going to be in the dire need that we're in when it came to Dayton sewer and water. Some of that was piping and all that stuff, but the majority of everything has been this inflation and it's hitting everybody. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking at my own home budget, just, covering extra gas in the vehicle because I drive a lot. I think we need to keep that in mind that no matter what we do, I think the citizens of Lyon County are understanding people, and they're going to understand that, we've been pushed up against a wall with this inflation. And I think providing sewer, water, and being basically demanded to provide these court services, it's kind of out of our control, but we got to take care of it. My fear of taking the capital improvement money to go towards the Fernley Justice Court so we could free up more ARPA money and kicking the can down the road on the Dayton complex just means that we'll be right back in here looking for money again, because we're going to end up in a situation where that historical building once again is going to have to be modified. I've been around, on this commission the longest, and we've had to do retrofits more than once in that building over the years. This one's a major one. So I think if we try to pull that money from the Dayton Justice Complex and even take that money and put it into the Dayton court we have now, all we're doing is throwing good money after bad, and we'll just continue to do that. As far as the Fernley Justice Court, I mean, we started off as, with the substation, at 4,400,000. I mean, you've already reduced that down to 1.8. I don't know that we can shave any more off of that. Josh could probably answer that question, but I think we, in the last meeting, shaved it down as far as we could go. Like I said, feel for, everybody that got approved on the last round. But again, I mean, we're all looking at our own personal budgets with this inflation. And I believe as commissioners, we are tasked with, providing services to our citizens. And if we can't provide sewer, we can't provide water, and God forbid, we got to raise rates again. I mean, Dayton's already paying the highest rates out of the whole county. Do I want to see the majority of the money all go to one community instead of spread out throughout the county? No, I didn't want to see that. But we got to take care of the immediate needs. And so that's where I'm at. Again, like I said, I would like to look at this from the top down again. Let's look at the big ticket items that we absolutely have to provide to our citizens before looking at the smaller ones.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Anybody else? Rob, you got anything else? Okay. Couple of questions I have. Has anybody reached out to Fernley to see if they are going to be able to help with the Justice Court and service mainly their community?
Josh Foley, Lyon County Comptroller, for the record, just so the board understands what staff's thoughts were when we had those discussions. The city of Fernley has absolutely no obligation at all, or no input into a justice court. They don't provide justice court services or any of those type of things. So we didn't go ask them no more than we did ask the Fernley swimming pool to contribute towards it as well, because it's a separate government. They have their tax rate and their revenue sources to fund their programs. And that's the way Nevada is set up. You have these different special governments that are for certain purposes. And so
Right, but we have been working together on different projects and stuff lately, and
we
so
have worked together on projects where we overlap, shall we say. The justice court isn't one where we overlap. I had this discussion with Commissioner Jacobson. We're more than happy to accept funding for the city of Fernley, but definitely don't expect it. And so he was going to reach out and talk to the city of Fernley, but I believe they've allocated their ARPA funds as well. And I mean, if you're going to go down that route, and I'm just brainstorming, you've got the community center that the city of Fernley is building that we allocated funding towards it. If they have money that they can use, why not let them fund more towards that and then just decrease our funding for that? And I'm not against, in no way, shape, or form do I want this to come across that I'm trying to throw the city of Fernley under the bus, because I had that discussion come up, and I have no issues with that. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. It's just they don't provide those services. If we're going to have those discussions, we can. I think Commissioner Jacobson did have some of those discussions since the last meeting. I think he has his hand up.
Yeah.
But I just want to reiterate the reason staff didn't go to the city of Fernley in regards to it is because that's not a function that they take care of. They have a muni court function that they do, but not the justice.
got it. Mr. Jacobson.
Thank you, Chairman Gray, and I appreciate that, Mr. Foley. I did have a great conversation with Mr. Foley. I also had a conversation with some city officials, and I do believe that they would be willing to work with the county. And I would like to see us reach out to them, set up a meeting, and just see where that meeting goes. Until we actually sit down and talk with people, we don't know where that's going to end up. And I realize it's on the county, but the city of Fernley obviously has a vested interest in that type of remodel, that type of building, that type of whatever. What would it hurt for us to sit down with the city of Fernley? I guess that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. And I fully concur with that. Pretty much all the questions I've got. Yeah, I mean, Jeff, can you scroll down a little bit? What is line 10? Okay, can we just see all of the, okay, just start off at number 8, I guess, then. I guess, I mean, I don't know what the board's flavor is, but I mean, do we just, guys just want to start at each line and go through and hash it out again? Or what do you guys like to do?
Let me take public comment first. We haven't taken the action yet. We haven't even proposed the action yet. I'll get to that once we get to that point. Josh, did you have something? Alrighty, well, one of the questions I have on one of these, I mean, there's a couple that are locked, obviously. I mean, we've got to do the sewer projects. Looking at item number 11, indigent assistance, childcare assistance, behavioral health. You know, there's already funding that comes in for that. That's $500,000 we provided, you know, other childcare assistance via the Boys and Girls Club and stuff like that. I mean, is this something that we're mandated here to provide here and now, or?
So Josh Foley, Lyon County Comptroller, this is money that you set aside for human services to use through December 31st, 2026 for all of the indigent assistance related to COVID. So they have those funds, they've been providing that, they've spent a bit of the money already. And so that was the thought process, is that should be sufficient for them to provide those services as they come up through that time period for the most impacted from COVID. And so that's what they've been doing with that funding.
That's an awfully big chunk there as well.
Chairman Gray, isn't that the first 5.5 million that we sat down and discussed? So, you know, I'd almost look at that as it's already been spent. The way I'd look at all of those projects were pretty much necessary community projects and county projects.
Page.
Mr. Chair, just for the board and public identification, if you look at the spreadsheet, sorry, I forgot the word. To the farthest, second, the farthest right column, where we took out the what you had allotted last time, from there down are the projects that the board has not, we haven't spent any money on. The ones above were approved, as Commissioner Hockaday stated some time ago, the $5.1 million to address Dayton water and sewer, human services, and a few other things, the Parks and Rec budget as well. So those above that are still up there have been allocated and are in the process of being spent.
But all the ones below have been allocated as well.
They haven't been spent.
They've been spent.
We haven't
The ones
started
above,
process.
I mean, even bring back to Josh's comments, they've, some has been spent, but not all, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that I would say that probably makes them fair game. If we're looking at cutting other things, makes them fair game as well.
Is there any way we could get a snapshot of what's been spent to date?
Snapshot of what?
What's been spent to, of the original ARPA allocations of the first 5 point or 6 point, whatever it was, 5.6 million that were allocated, the ones, I guess, line items on here.
If you'll give me names, because it's a little
just
small.
the ones that still have the amounts on them. So lines 8 through 18.
Ones that have no revisions at all.
Okay, so the ones with no revisions, the ribs, the lift station, effluent disposal, those, when we've done the engineer's estimates, they haven't been spent per se, but they are allocated and we anticipate it's gonna come in at least those amounts. Plus the 700,000. If we go up, and that's, let's see, in the rolling A. So then if we go to Smith Valley Internet, that's one where for 8,500, we could take a look at, because we're looking at an alternative, but we haven't put it in yet.
I'm more interested in looking at the big ticket item.
Yeah.
I mean, Smith Valley is not a,
Okay.
let's not
parks,
even waste our time on that one. I want to look at item 11. That's
the indigent
$500,000.
assistance, I can go tell you what we've spent to date over
Could
the
you?
past few months. If you want me to, if you want to have some discussion, I'll go pull it up.
Please, yeah, I mean, this is all on the table. I think we need to know.
Okay.
Thanks, Josh.
I'll be right
You
back.
guys want to take a quick 3-minute break?
Please.
I think that's Yeah.
Well. Something like they did Silver City. Couldn't ask for that.
No, that's fine. Thanks very much.
All the birdies ties. Yeah, they have good cheap ties.
We're good.
Oh my gosh, Sarah. I was gonna say, don't tell me. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's it, Joe.
How you feeling, Aaron? Yeah. Ready, Josh? Commissioner Keller, you got your hand up. Go ahead and go ahead.
Well, I just want to make a statement, probably going to make me unpopular, piss off a lot of people on the board. I love all of you, but you know, I feel like we're dancing around. And so, you know, if we have commissioners on the board that have a pet project they're trying to get to, let's just lay it out there. Let's quit doing the dance. Let's figure out what that is and move forward. It's obvious we had $16 million in requests with $6 million. We've got inflation hitting us. We've got a lot of issues. We need to provide for the citizens of Lyon County, and that is not going to include every need and want. So if you have a pet project, let's discuss it. Let's get the elephant out of the room and move forward.
You're right. You're not popular.
That's fine. You know, I never got elected
I'm
to be
giving you a
popular.
hard time. I'm giving you a hard time. No, I think we're getting there. Which, I mean, this is, like I said, the elephant in the room, but we're eating that elephant piece by piece. And that's why I think we need to know these numbers.
That piece by piece is what got us to this second meeting. Let's get down to the nuts.
Well,
and
inflation is
bolts
what
of
got
we
us
have
to the
do.
second meeting and cost overruns, but Mr. Yeah, whatever your name is, Foley.
Josh Foley, Lyon County Comptroller for the record. So in answer to your question, there's a little bit of background that I need to provide so that you can put the numbers in context. And that is Human Services didn't start spending any of the ARPA money until we used up all of the CARES funding that we had. And so it wasn't until October 22nd that we started cutting the first check on any of this money. The second piece of that is because we have a significant amount of stimulus funding where they received grants through the stimulus funding from the state and the federal government, they haven't allocated any of their salaries or benefits to this particular program yet. Once we wean off of that, just like once we weaned off the CARES funding, then we're going to look at higher costs going forward because we're going to be allocating salaries to keep the people running the program. So we've currently spent a little over $35,000. We are on pace each month right now, spending approximately $4,500 per month. If we stay on that same pace through the end of the program, we're going to spend approximately $275,000. However, when we take a look at that, we anticipate that those costs are going to significantly go up when we start allocating salaries and benefits to it when we wean off the other federal programs that were part of the stimulus funding. And so I would anticipate you're probably going to come in pretty close to what was allocated.
So why are we committing a cardinal rule violation? Like you've always said, why are we attributing salaries to one-time monies?
So it's a whole separate piece on the human services grants. They attribute salaries to every grant that they get that they process.
So what happens when this money runs out?
Then we decrease staffing if we need to, which is another reason why they take a look at that. And that's the same with if you look at the probably 25 grants that Human Services does from year to year, and they're different grants and they change from year to year, what we try to do is find funding to keep those people employed and do different ones. It's the only piece of the county that we do that for, because the lion's share of their funding comes from federal grants. And we have no other way of doing it.
Alrighty. Let's let's go ahead and open up let's open up item 31 at this point. I mean, this is the elephant in the room, and I'm sure Ms. Keller is the one that's been I'm sure that's one you're referring to, correct?
I'm not referring to any particular.
Oh, okay, well, no, I mean, that's what we're looking at. I mean, all right, Mr. Jacobson.
If I could really quickly, Mr. Chair, when you're referring to a line item, because it didn't come out in the packet with the Excel number that you see in there.
Okay.
If you'll refer to the item.
The Mountain House Community Center, the $1 million there. Rob?
Thank you, Chairman Gray. To answer Commissioner Keller's question, I don't know that I would call it a pet project. I think it's a very responsible project. The Community Resource Center in Fernley, $350,000. Our support, it will allow them to show that it's a group effort between the city of Fernley, Lyon County School District, the county, Fernley Community Center, or the foundation, Pennington. I think that that's how those types of projects should go. And I'm just not seeing that with the Mound House. So there's a plan for maintenance. There's a plan for how it's going to be used. The amount of people using that every day with pre-K education, 4 classrooms in there. I think that's a perfect example of this for $350,000. I think that is how these projects should look. I am not seeing that with the Mound House Community Center, and I'm not saying it's a bad project. I would love to have one there, but
You're also talking about the maturity of 2 different projects also. I mean, that one's much farther down the pike. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying one has been in the works for a lot longer.
Correct. And I think that there we have it. I think as far as the new bucking chutes and pens, we can't shave at least $7,000 off of that to get us under the $100,000 mark. I don't see it. Once again, we don't have the bids in front of us. And I know that's a smaller ticket item, but
Fair assessment though.
So
No pun intended.
just
I have a question for Commissioner Jacobson, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So I absolutely agree with you on that, Rob. And I was not against that project whatsoever, but on the last round, you guys allocated $350,000, and we had a discussion about the Fernley Justice Court and working with Fernley. Do you think Fernley would be willing, possibly, just a question, to let us use that $350,000 towards the Justice Court, and then they cover the Resource Center? I'm just, because you were looking for help from Fernley for the Justice Court. I just thought that might be a switch there and accomplish 2 things.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Keller and Chairman Gray. The problem is when you take that money from there to put it in another pot, now it doesn't look like Fernley's buying, or the county is an active supporter. And so when they go after more monies, Lyon County is shown as supporting that project. I don't think that that would be a very good switch at all. Because they can leverage our commitment along with those other entities to continue with that project, to continue, to go after more monies outside of Lyon County, city of Fernley. I don't think that that would be a good solution, to answer your question.
Okay, like I said, it was just a discussion to see if we could get somewhere on those two items.
Got it. Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment on the Mound House Community Center. You know, I agree with Commissioner Jacobson that we don't have a lot of plans in place right now, and that's because of where the project is. The need, I'm not going to say it's just recently come up, since, as you recall, that was supposedly this Board of County Commission's priority in 1991 to get them a building. They don't have it yet. So I agree that that is a not well-defined project. But as Mr. Foley said, for using ARPA money for capital improvement things, we don't have the money anywhere else in the budget. If we don't put some money towards Mound House, they're not going to have anything for a long time. You know, so we need to do something for Mound House. They don't have a building. They're about to get kicked out of the firehouse where they have their meetings now. And they don't have any other place in their community where they can meet. So I'm not saying $1 million, but we need to do something to start the process to get Mound House a community center.
Thank you. Mr. Page and Mr. Foley, can you guys step up real quick? And I asked Fire Chief to get online, Rich Harvey, but I don't know that he's done that yet. You guys see him online, anyone?
I believe Chief Harvey's on assignment.
Okay. Well, an interesting proposition was made last week. I'm not sure if you heard, and this may actually solve a huge chunk of it. Central Lyon is looking for a place to do vehicle maintenance and things like that. And in return, they've got their eye on a place. In return, they have offered to let the county add on the community center to the current firehouse in Mound House to the size we need. Would that be significantly less expensive? And I mean, you've already got all of the infrastructure in place. It'd be a matter of tying into it. What would the opportunity be there? I mean, because people are already used to meeting there. They could add on, 1,500 square foot meeting area and move some of the Central Lyon operations from around the county to the location they're looking at.
So I think Jeff Page for the record. I think partnering with Central Lyon Fire isn't necessarily a bad thing. The question I have about the Mound House Community Center is, what are we using it for? If all we're doing is,
We've answered that a few times. There's a lot of things they want to use it for.
Okay, but we have no design. We have no idea. So we build a 1,500 square foot what?
Yeah, okay. No, I agree. But I mean, we've asked this question, we've asked several times, for staff to meet with, members of the community, i.e. Melinda, Cash, to figure out what is actually needed versus what you guys think is needed versus what is actually wanted. Agreed. But what I'm looking at here is, I'm not gonna, you talk about pet project. I would say it's a pet project. I'm saying this is a community that's been underserved for a very, very, very long time. I mean, going back to the 1990s, early 1990s, I've seen the news articles where they were promised a community center. I mean, tell me a facility they have or a, someplace in their community that they have that they can call their own that serves that community.
I'm not disagreeing.
I know you're not disagreeing, but there is nothing there. We've got to do something for this community. These monies, we're like manna from heaven, and we want to get them started on that way. I'm offering a possible solution here. Is this something we can work towards?
Well, yes, that's always a possibility. I have no idea whether it's the right fit. I don't know whether the property, if we can design the, I don't know what the size of the property is, to be honest with you. I have to look up and figure out what we could actually do there to determine what that cost would look like, what that cost would be. I've also, my understanding is that, and I could be wrong, but in talking with Chief Harvey, there's been no move to kick the advisory board out of there.
No overt, but I mean, have you been in their meeting space?
Oh yeah,
it's totally.
I get it.
They've totally been asked to move out just by the actions taken, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's what's happened. I mean, you cannot. I mean, you guys have seen it. Can they hold a meeting in there, a community meeting?
Well, that's a break room.
Well, it's not even, it's a kitchen. I mean, so, I mean, that's, ridiculous to say they've been asked to move. They have been. I mean, their stuff has been pulled, out and warehoused. And, everything else has been moved in to make it a functional kitchen for the fire department, which it should be. That's what it was designed for. So, I mean, I think we could make cuts there. I know we could. But there's got to be something in place that says, hey, we're still going to be working towards something, towards a community center for you guys. Has the zone change been?
Staff's working on that now. So
Has anybody reached out to the community, or has anybody started any kind of a conceptual process of what they could use or need, or what's required?
no, because we keep every 2 weeks having this discussion, so we're not moving forward.
Right, but that's the argument that keeps coming back to us is, well, we don't know what's needed. Well, we can't tell you what, that's you're using a negative basically to prove a negative. I mean, we can't tell you what has to go out there. We can't even allocate an amount of money because nobody's told us what, we just keep being told, well, we don't have a plan or a design, and it's kind of funny. It's the dog chasing the tail.
Well, with all due respect to the board, Mount House Community Center was not on the agenda for discussion for anything in the future for the last 12 years I've been here, until the commissioner suggested ask for a price. So we gave you a price of $1.2 million for a 4,000 square foot facility. That was it. There has been no formal action until ARPA came along that we want to do this. So my challenge is, up there is a list of $11.1 million worth of projects that staff's recommending be done for a variety of reasons, whether it be public safety, court issues, the sewer issue. And now we're setting priorities based upon, for a building in Mount House for 1,600 people, that was never, no formal action was ever taken by the board to start moving forward to do anything with. So that's the confusion and discussion that we've had among staff is, what is it the board wants this building to be? The community,
And I think
community center-
I think the board has said several times, what do we want it to be? Check with the community and see what they want it to be. And I know they've talked to me several times and said they've had communications with you as to what they would like to see and need. But nothing has come back officially. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, I agree with you, but so, all right, I'm gonna throw it back up. Anybody got their hands up over here?
Well, Chairman Gray, it's not one of my pet projects. Certainly, I don't really have any big pet projects. Most of the stuff down at the south end of the county is, $5,000 to $10,000 project, not $1 million. But I do look at the fact that the Board of Commissioners promised them something in 1991. I was still in the Air Force. But I'll tell you this, if I gave my word in 1991, I'd still go by my word. And that's why I feel that we have got to do something for them. And having been at their meeting, in a tiny, tiny little room, I just felt like the board needs to uphold their promise from 1991 and try to get something done. And I keep hearing, well, we don't know what they want. Well, that's pretty easy to solve.
Yep.
They need a room and they need a kitchen. Put it together, figure out a reasonable price, and let's get it done.
And that's what the money was for, was to begin that process. Looks like we lost a commissioner and a county manager. Mr. Foley.
Josh Foley, Lyon County Comptroller. Just so the board is aware, staff hasn't been sitting on their hands. I have had a discussion with Melinda Cash. We talked on the phone. We talked about at our last board meeting, approximately 1,500 square feet. I talked to the architects. The architects said what you're looking at right now is approximately $500 to $525 a square foot for the building. And then when you look at the site improvements, so I came back to the board and I gave you a dollar amount of $1.4 to $1.5 million for that concept, which would be a room and a kitchen, about 1,500 square feet. So I understand the board's frustration that we haven't defined it or given you a dollar amount, but we've given you ballpark figures to say this is what we're looking at. Now, if we're changing what that looks like to say, hey, we're adding a 200 square foot room to a firehouse, and we want to start fleshing that piece out, we can have those discussions. But I believe we've brought back to the board sufficient information for you to have an educated discussion.
As much as I don't want to do it, we have to do something for Mound House. And as much as I don't want to do it, I think we do need to take a look at that number and cut it. I still want to keep monies in there to begin whatever process it is we need to do, engineering, design, architecture. What, if we were to still proceed and build on the land that they've got there, what would you estimate those costs to be to get a conceptual design, architecture and engineering
So conceptual.
without
design,
turning a shovel of dirt? What would it cost?
right, but usually you're looking at right around 15% of the total cost of the project. So probably, I would say you're looking at somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000 for that
So-
process.
What if we, okay, what if we cut that back to 400? That gives us, because we've seen all the costs rise. If we cut that amount, that 1 million back to 400,000 now and held that there and to begin the process and meet with the community and figure out what it is actually needed, wanted, and to begin moving that way. I know that's not as much as you guys wanted to cut it, but that's as far as I'm willing to cut it to keep the process going and alive. What are your guys' thoughts down there?
Yeah, I had 500 written down, but I could look before.
And
Well, if he's saying
alternative-
300, that leaves us 25% contingency. So,
And the alternatives that we may have, addition,
yeah,
kitchen, whatever, addition to the firehouse. Those all need to be explored
mhm.
and see what we can do to come up with something for them to have a meeting room where people can spread out and get things done.
Yep. And I've been chatting with Rich Harvey online also, so I'm gonna get with them and the community as well to see, maybe bring it up at the advisory board. So what, Jeff, why don't we start? We'll take the first swipe at that and bring that down to 400. So that leaves us still,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry, I didn't see your guys' hands. I'm sorry. Who had it up first? Commissioner Jacobson or Keller?
I don't know, we both had hands up for a while.
You're already unmuted. Go for it.
So I would like to throw out a slate just to kind of see where we land
Okay.
and see what everybody thinks of it. I think it might get us to where we need to be a little faster, unless we all disagree, but I would like to take a stab at some numbers here and the projects and see where we land.
Go for it.
So,
Let me do something real quick. Can you like maybe change column N to Vita's slate? So we can see what she's proposing.
thank you. I was just gonna ask Josh if he could kind of put a separate column.
We all had a column.
Okay. Yeah, maybe a column for each of us, Jeff.
I think we just need to get to where we need to get to that.
Yeah. Okay, there, Commissioner Keller, go for it.
Okay, so currently, I'm just looking at leaving, the first four items are the ambulances that we approved on the last one. So, we've got Central for 300,000, Mason for 200,000, Smith for 200,000, and North Lyon for 300,000. I'd like to just leave those alone for the moment. The sheriff's drones, you had already reduced that to one. I would like to leave the one drone. So that's the 34,336.97. Taking out the motorcycles. Burnley Justice Court, leave the 1,824,106.59.
I love it. We got down to 59 cents. That's,
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment on that?
yes.
On the Fernley Justice Court, we need approximately $2.2 million to be able to do the project. So I just want everyone to be aware of it. That was part of the reason I came in the first place with this agenda item is 1.8 million doesn't get you there.
Yeah, so I mean, that's why that's part of the 1.16 shortfall that we've got is beefing that up, correct?
Yes.
Right, for right now, I was just laying out these numbers and to see where my bottom line was, and then we can allocate where we need to from there. Then skipping down to the Miller Lane and Iazzi Lane intersection, we have 120,000 in there. I think we need to leave that. That's something that's got to be worked on and engineered if we want to even try to get grant money or anything moving forward. Ramsey Weeks, we had reduced that down to 400,000 to accomplish the same thing, so we could go out to grants before that completely fails. The records restoration project, 60,000. I believe they've already started on that project.
Is that true?
I had a conversation, Madam or Mr. Chair, I had a conversation with them, telling them not to proceed yet, and
Oh, okay.
until we had this meeting.
All right. I had heard that they had already started, but I wasn't sure. Okay. And then City of Fernley, the Community Response and Resource Center, leave it at the 350 that we were at the last meeting. I'm thinking the Early Learning Center for the Boys and Girls Club. We can discuss that, but let's leave the 275 there for right now. I do believe those are key pieces when it comes to our kids. I would like to leave in the new bucking chutes and back pins. We did only one generator. That was for the Silver Springs Mutual Water Company. And I do want to go on record that, you know, a lot of people's like, oh, you're giving a generator. This is for an emergency management situation. And that is a portable generator. And with our MOU with the county, if it was needed anywhere else in the county, they would have access to that. They would just call up Matt and say, hey, you know, we got a problem, we need it. So that doesn't just serve the water company, that can serve the county as well in an emergency situation where that generator was needed. And then on the Dayton sewer, I think that's your final line. I was adding $1 million, but I think Josh, you had 700,000 for that.
Yes, so I can add 700,000 to that line item.
Yeah, put that 700,000, and then let's see what our what we have left to play with to bump up the Fernley Justice Court, to address monies for the Mound House Community Center for at least, you know, getting their engineering plans, get them to a point to where, you know, hey, if there's grant money or extra money, if anything comes in, we have a project ready to go.
Okay, so just a question for you to make sure I captured everything, because you talked about the bucking chutes for the fair and rodeo, but not the asphalt or the Santa hut placements. Were those?
Exactly. I can't leave it all in, or we're right back to where we were.
I just want to make sure I'm on the same page. So you
Yeah.
have $1,087,437.58 that you can continue to allocate.
Okay, so then we could go ahead and bump up the Fernley Justice Court to, what was it, 2.2, you said?
Yes.
Is that an exact number, or do we have cents?
At this point, I'm out of cents, but I would recommend we put it at 2.2 million and see where we're at. And just so the board is aware, even with all of this that we do, we have no contingency
And
funds.
that was, okay, you're going right to my next thing. I was gonna say, you know, in all of this, with this inflation killing us, you know, we need to leave something for contingency. So I'm just gonna throw out there that, you know, what if we throw 300,000 towards the Mound House Community Center? That leaves us with a final number, what to have any further. I mean, that's not a lot of contingency for the inflation as fast as it's going up. But it gives us something. What's that number?
A typo apparently. $411,544.17.
And that put 300, I can't, I'm reading online here. Okay, for the, where's Mound House? Where'd it go?
300,000 for the Mountain House community.
Okay. And so that would leave us a whole 411,000 for any more contingencies moving forward.
Chairman,
Okay. Well, that's just my suggestion, guys. I'm trying to go through it. I mean, obviously, you know, we want to do everything that's on the list. Maybe we can find other means, other avenues. You know, I really love to do something with Dressler Park, all of them. I just don't know how we're going to get there.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chairman Gray. I'm just wanted to let you know that I've got to switch to my phone. My son has a doctor's appointment, and so I am going to be on my phone. I hope I can get in. Mr. Page, if something fails on that, can I call you and be in on this vote?
Yes.
All right. I hate to do this, but I'm going to be on my phone. I will be, I believe I *6 to get in. I don't know if I can raise my hand, Chairman Gray. So if I cut in, I'm not trying to be rude or anything.
No,
Drive safe and speak up.
you can text me as well also if you need to, it'll pop up.
Well, I can't text when I'm driving. So my son's going to run the *6 for me and I'm going to talk. So.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Chairman Gray. I talked to Doug Homestead, our facilities director, and the discussion we had about Dressler Park was, I don't want a patchwork, but I do want a good repair. The cracks and stuff need to be repaired in a manner that we repair roads, not go out there and pour tar into a crack that continues to get bigger. So, you know, $170,000, I mean, that floored me. To replace a tennis court, I believe is outrageous. But to do a good repair needs to be done for liability. You know, people do use that park. They do use the tennis court. There are some other things that we're working on out there at the park. Since I do attend the park boards there, I would like to have, you know, I can agree with a lot of things that Commissioner Keller said on this, but something needs to be done to repair those damaged courts. And
Agreed.
whatever that is, whatever we need to look at to get that cost needs to be done. If that comes out of our $411,000 contingency to get it fixed, then so be it.
I'll take a swing. You betcha. So you want to get to my column?
There you go.
Okay. So I agree with Commissioner Keller down through the drone. And I appreciate the fact that we are keeping that in, because I think that is just a cost benefit analysis there is definitely in our favor. I'm not in favor of increasing the allocation for the Fernley Justice Court. I realize Mr. Foley says that 1.8 million won't do it, but you know, there's other grants out there we can find or search for anyway for justice complexes and law enforcement and that. So I would like to, I'd actually like to reduce that, but for the sake of argument, I'm gonna leave it at the 1.8 million. I think we do need to add money. So maybe, I don't know, $85,000 for the tennis courts. Cut that in half, that might be able to repair.
Might be much.
I'm just throwing a figure out there now. I also agree with the Miller Lane and Ramsey Weeks Engineering. We need that money. The records retention, if that hasn't been started, it's a worthwhile cause, but again, there might be grants out there, so I would not be in favor of funding that. I would like to see the $400,000 for the Mountain House Community Center, not the 300. I think why I believe that both the Community Resource Response and Resource Center and the Early Learning Center are valuable assets to the community. I would like to reduce both of those by, let's see, the Community Resource Center by 50,000 and the Early Learning Center by 25,000. So that make that 300 and 250,000. And I also think we need to replace the bucking chutes and back pins, but instead of 106, I believe Mr. Foley said another 30,000 on that, so 136,000 for those. And where's that leave us, if you could?
So you up the bucking chutes and pins from 106 to 136?
Yes, because Mr. Foley said he needed 330,000 for that.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So it leaves you 912,000.
Yeah, I would also keep in the controls, the generator for the Smith Valley Water. And I'm sorry, yeah, Silver Springs, whichever one it is.
Silver Springs people.
All right, just take it out. Never mind. No. And then you can. Okay, so that leaves me with 707,000. So 500,000 for contingency. These 207,000, and I would be willing to put that in. I will begrudgingly put that into the Friendly Justice Fund.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did the line go for the Dayton sewer?
So I added it in on the effluent disposal. Let's see, no, I didn't.
He added
I added it in right here on the ribs and effluent disposal.
Yeah, that went up from 1.5 to 2.2 to include the 700.
Oh, okay. I lost it when I'm looking at the screen. I'm like, where'd it go? Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's my swing.
Commissioner Hockaday, you gonna take a swing?
Well, I've gone through and pretty much at this point, everything that I feel is important is covered already.
Okay.
We can quibble over 50,000 here or there, but for the most part, I think we've got it taken care of.
Well, the only one I'm concerned about is because we've got the one bridge in Dayton and the Carson River Bank stabilization channel maintenance. We could take that down to 150 right there. If we do that, we pretty much lose our matches. If we go below that 150, that's as low as we can go. And that's important. We've got to keep that area free and stable upriver of the bridge. I don't think that's a like to have or a want to have. I think that's a must have. We've got to get some of that work done. I mean, we have to. I would like to take that 150 out of the 500 for human services. Those are grant funded positions anyways. And I hate to say that, but they continually work on grants. And I think there is a very fair to good chance that they can replace that anyway. So I'd like to move that down to 350. So I mean, what they got, honestly, the way I look at it is what they got. I could be wrong, but they got an early stabilization and did not have to work on grants as much as they would, but I think, it's, they're still pretty strong there with the 350.
Yeah.
Well, Chairman Gray also realized that this was,
Manna from
$11
heaven.
million that was added to us. So we put 500,000 in there on an average year. They're doing the same thing they've always done. Does it make it easier in the future? Absolutely.
Yep.
But they've maintained their money going through. This was just extra money that was put in there.
Yep, exactly. I'm not willing to touch anything through the ambulances. And as much as I've been a proponent of the motorcycles, I don't think we can get there. I mean, I know it's only $34,000. I don't think we can get there from here. It's just, would love to do it. I think they would be an absolute boon to safety. But looking at, how many days a year, and I've heard Josh Foley and other folks, I've heard their fears about liability and folks getting hurt. Although I don't really buy into that argument. I just think we need to, just hold off on the motorcycles. The drones are staying, the drone is staying. Fernley Justice Court, yeah, the 2.2, I mean, I just don't see how we can get around that. Miller and Iazzi, and Ramsey Weeks, we can't. We've cut those to the bone, I think, so far. The records restoration, where do we stand now, Josh?
So you have 2.4 million approximately.
Okay, let's go back to the bigger ticket items.
And Chairman Gray, I would say that after the presentation we had on records restoration, I do believe that's pretty significant.
It is a very significant project. That's what I was gonna say. I think that should stay. And I've been through their records and seen them. And they are well on their way on that project. This is just finishing the project. The Madhouse Community Center. I'm gonna go for the midway. I said I was gonna drop below 4, but let's go to 350 on that. We've got to have some contingency on that. Resource, I think 300 on that one. So 1.6. Yeah, the EL Weingart, I'd say 250 on that one as well. And they're very adept at getting grants done. I'm gonna jump down to the bucking chutes and pins. Well, actually, I'm sorry. Where's the tennis court? Let's back up. Replacement asphalt 36. Is it line 30? I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. There it is, right there. So, Dave, what do you think a realistic number? I mean, you've had the conversation. What's a realistic number there?
Well, 85 is great, but I think, to replace the areas that are damaged, if we went 50,000, I think that was kind of what I thought the whole project would be to begin with. I was quite surprised with that 170 to do everything. So yeah, I could go with 50,000 on that one.
Should we build in a contingency just in case? You want to go like 65? Okay, let's go to 65 on that one. We'll come back to that one. Let's jump down to grass restoration, park repairs. That was the dog park, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Much as I'd like to, it's not. I mean, that's a nice to have. We'll go down to the bucking chutes. Yeah, we'll go with the 136. And then the 205 for the replacement control system and 2 generators.
And
that's one generator though, correct?
right, Mr.
Okay.
Chair, if I
Yes.
could bring to the board's attention, I don't know that the bucking chutes would be the top priority. It may be for the board, but the replacement asphalt may be a higher priority.
So I was
So-
gonna jump back up to that one. I
Well-
mean, without the bucking chutes, there's no rodeo. Without the replacement asphalt, there may be no rodeo. So I would jump back up there to that and put in the 165.
So where are we?
That's one where we actually need engineering on as well.
Okay.
The 165.
Bam. As much as I'd love to do this senior center replacement tables and chairs, from what I've seen, they're not in all that bad of a condition. They are. I mean, maybe we can start a restoration, not a restoration project, but a replacement project going forward. I think that's where I land right now.
Okay, if I could, Mr. Chair, on the replacement asphalt, I'm recommending 30,000 additional on that so we can do the engineering. That's just the work.
Okay.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah. Let him update that number here real quick.
Do you want me to update it?
Yeah, update it.
Okay,
Does it have to be asphalt or can it just be gravel?
yeah,
But okay, but then Does the whole parking lot need to be asphalt, or can there just be an ADA area that is asphalted in?
The challenge is you already have. So the challenge I have with taking out the asphalt, putting it in gravel is when it's a heavily foot traffic area during the fair, during events, whenever the barn is used. So when you start bringing up the gravel, then we have even less space for those people who have ADA issues, or specifically those who are elderly using walkers or canes. Now we have more of a trip hazard with gravel in that area. So that's my concern.
And,
And now I
Miss-
do have a question on the concrete slab for standing hut placements. Is that going to get us an ADA violation if we don't do that? Were we safe leaving it the way it is? Or could we do one with a concrete approach and concrete pad?
For the dollar amount, I think you're better off just doing all of it at once instead of breaking it into a smaller one, because by the time you get the terminology bang for your buck, which I try not to use very often, but for 12,000, I think you're better off doing all of it, and then you don't end up with a number of issues when you're hosing them out with water standing where people are walking and so on and so forth.
We're talking about inflation, concrete's going
Yeah.
up
So-
rapidly.
So is
If
that
you
a-
approve this today, they will have it done within 2 weeks.
So is
Tomorrow.
So is that a need or a must have with regards to ADA? Because that's, excuse me, please. Is that a need or a must have with regard to ADA?
I would say it's probably a need, but a high need. I think
You always like to
right in the
just
middle.
walk that line.
Well, the problem is when I walk that line, if you ask me a question that's going to get us in legal problems down the road,
No, I got
I
you.
try not to answer that in a way that is going to cause problems.
So like our HR guy, you went to law school too. All right. So yeah, we better leave the concrete in there as well. And that's where I land. That's so what leaves us
833
contingency.
for contingency.
Which is the highest contingency out of all of them. What do you guys think? Rob's got his hand up still, but I don't see him.
Now he's on the road.
I see a rack. Hey, Rob?
Yeah, again, I apologize for this inconvenience. I support Vida Keller's proposal, and I would also then throw in my 2 cents is spending that contingency on some of these other projects that are left over for the needs and wants of the community that are supported by the other commissioners. Thank you.
And I apologize, Mr. Chair. I had neglected because you hadn't stated it specifically, or maybe I missed it on the 700,000 for Dayton Sewer. So I put that in just now, and that decreases the contingency to 133,570.
No. All right.
You'd have to do that on Vitus too.
Yeah, he did.
Vida has it right here as well.
Okay, so I'm just gonna talk to Vida and Commissioner Henderson on this one. So neither one of you guys are in favor of the replacement asphalt or concrete for the fairgrounds?
There was something up there. Josh, can you scroll to the top that Ken reduced? What was that? Oh, on the the indigent assistant child care. So we picked up what? If we go with his number of 350 instead of my 5. God, I hate doing that.
But so we haven't fixed anything there. All we did was make it a little bit easier for them. And that's what I was looking at, was they still are writing their grants, they're still doing those things. We're supplanting what they were already doing with other funds. That's why I was looking at reallocating part of that somewhere else.
Well, see, I See, I hate going down to 350. So Josh, if you took mine down to say 450 and put that 50,000 for the tennis court in Smith. I don't know what they can do with that. It's got to be fixed somehow. I just having a hard time getting the numbers there. Gosh, that replacement asphalt is horrible.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at the 150 from that. I mean, this is a major community event and yeah,
No, I get that. I just,
the money can be replaced in human services. I mean, it's going to take some work. It can be replaced. They know the grants to go after and things like that. It's there's really, I'm not seeing another option for doing that for the replacement asphalt or the concrete.
can we take a short break? Let me think a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, good idea. Can we- Josh, could you print this out?
Yeah, hey Josh, can you print one for me too? No.
I'll run it up to you, Vida.
How about a quick email?
Well, I just thought, commercial, when you're commercial, and you have big money, they have big money. Or I don't know. I think there's a bigger issue with the state legislature, what they can do. That's really beyond this discussion. Mound House, I wonder if it would be less expensive if there's a way that the county could rent a facility for their use. It would be nice, especially since in the 1990s we haven't done
We can. Sir. My list was pretty much set. You hit pretty much my list. I did. What I wanted to vote for, what it should do.
I think we're close.
Yeah, I think we are. I think we get closer. Yeah.
I don't remember what the specs were on that. It was a pretty good size generator. Well, ask the question. Can we cut some in? Can we get a Dodge instead of a Cadillac? Or a Prius or something?
Story tenant has done all of the repair work. Oh, at the end. We had to rebuild the she goes. I'm accustomed to seeing that those routine.
Catch up. The cousins have been going crazy this morning.
Yes, it's a dedicated ground. Well, it's.
Did you bring magnifying glass?
And we should have just had those as standard equipment up here.
Hey, Josh, you could have Xeroxed off my list. That's all right. Yours is more original. Mine. Arrows up, arrows down. Oh.
Are we ready?
Yep. I'm just trying to finish squeezing it out. All right. All right, we are back in order. Our Xerox copies in front of us and let's take first step.
I could barely hear you, Ken. Your mic on or?
It would help if I turned my mic on.
Oh, thank you. Much better. I didn't hear a word you just said.
We're reviewing the numbers on the spreadsheet.
Okay. Well, on my column, Josh, as much as I value the Boys and Girls Club and their learning center, I also know that the Boys and Girls Club values the fair and rodeo grounds for their big events. So what if we pulled out of their, not taking it to zero, but pulled out of their 275, that number you had, I forgot what the number was, for the asphalt. I lost my line. Oh, there it is. I know that's absolutely not what they were looking for. But again, the fair and rodeo grounds, I mean, that's where they hold their major events. And I believe that still remains the same, Jeff?
Yes, that I believe they're still planning on using the fair rodeo grounds. Travis says yes too, so that's authoritative.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to take it from them on that learning center, but I mean, again, if they don't have a good fairgrounds to have their event, I mean, they make a lot more than a couple $100,000 off of that.
Guys, I got First Riverbank stabilization and channel maintenance. We really need that. I mean, that's leverage money. I mean, we lose money if we lose that. You know, if we cut it below 150, we lose other match money too from the state and other entities that are going to help out with that project.
Can we go over to my column for a second? Are you finished, Commissioner Keller? I don't want to step on your toes.
Yeah, I'm finished. I agree with Kim, but I don't want to change anything because I don't want to reduce that contingency anymore. I mean, I don't even know if that's going to be enough to get us through, but at least it's a start. So I'm done.
Okay. If you could on mine, go back to the tennis courts and reduce that to the 65,000. And reduce the Mound House Community Center to the 350,000. And that gives me 70, and reduce the Early Learning Center to 125,000, and then add those three that I took off for the asphalt. It didn't equal 195. I know it didn't, I don't think.
Mine thinks it does.
But I don't see how. I took 20 from the tennis courts. And
Okay, so we're gonna take 20 from here.
right,
There's 20.
right.
You were dropping,
And I took the Mount House Community Center down to the 50, down to 350. So that's 70. And then I took 125. Yes, 195. So yeah, it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
So what about the Carson River project?
Yes, that's what I was trying to get to as well.
Because you got the 500 right now, that would for contingency, that'd take it down to 350, which
Okay.
is
I can live with that. I mean, it's not quite enough contingency, but
better than a sharp stick in the eye.
Chairman Gray,
Yes, sir.
again, what are we looking for as far as a percentage of our 6.1 or over at this point for the contingency? What are you going to be comfortable with? You say 200,000?
You asking me or Josh?
Josh.
Okay.
But
so I had originally recommended that we look at 400,000, but that was before we allocated a number of additional costs. In this particular case, I think you're gonna need at least, it depends on what you fund in the projects on how much contingency we should put in. As an example, for the Fernley Justice Court, I realized there was discussion that we could possibly get grants out there for that. And potentially we might get some small grants from the AOC, but I would be shocked if we actually got any grants on that particular project. I know that there are grant projects out, but the timeline that we have to get this all done by and get the grants written and awarded and all of that. So I would recommend we look at somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000 on contingency would be my recommendation.
Scroll back up again, Josh. I mean, we can eliminate, I think, even off the list, eliminate what we agreed on so far, and that would be getting rid of the motorcycles,
Right.
the senior center stuff, and the grass restoration. I mean, we should just pull those from the list at this point. You know, and actually, we may as well look at the concrete slab with the Sandy hut too. I can give that up easily.
Yeah, it's $12,000.
I know, but it's, I mean, just pull it off and.
We're looking at basically trying to get about $200,000 on your list, which covers almost
Yeah, no,
everything.
that's why I'm
which-
looking so we can get closer to where we
which
are.
is, you know, your list is basically my list. That's
Mhm.
looking at what I had on my page. So
What's the difference between my list and your list, Dave?
really nothing. You know, 20 here, 30 there. That's about it. That's why, you know, I don't need a list because your list pretty much covered everything that I had on mine here on my worksheet. So
Josh, can you eliminate lines 35 and 37, please?
I would like to leave them in because they were original there, but
Okay,
as far as 37, I can put
yeah,
the
just
yours to
eliminate the
0.
money, yeah.
And you want that added to contingency? For
Yeah.
now?
And let's go back to the EL Weingard. I'm not comfortable cutting that one all the way to the bone, but I would be willing to go down to the 125 on that one.
which one?
EL Weingard Running Center. I would love to keep it much more, but. And I would encourage you guys to look at the Health and Human Services also. I mean, Wes, I don't think you cut anything from that one on yours.
What?
The Human Services,
What line? I'm sorry.
line, what is it, 11? Everybody offered some cuts on that
Oh,
one.
yeah, no, I'm good. I could go with the 350 on that and I don't know where we put the other 150 though. Let me take a look real quick here.
Yeah, well, obviously that may give us somewhere else to work.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, you've got room to put that in if you want to do it in the Friendly Justice Court. That would bring you up to parity on the Friendly Justice Court with us.
Begrudgingly, I will. Okay, thank you. That actually works.
Okay. I mean, it looks like the records restoration project. Okay, so our next discrepancy amongst us is the records restoration project. Would you be willing to put that back in? I mean, it's a project that's already been underway. And it is a
Yeah, let's put it back in at 30.
okay.
And then yours and his are both the same, basically.
There we go.
Wait, no, 30, Josh.
Man, so the new,
So really the only difference between you two and Vida would be the stabilization.
and the bucking chutes, there's $30,000 difference.
Yeah.
Pull the 30 off the bucking chutes for me.
Well, we have to have that for engineering.
As that was as a contingency. So I mean, that was. What was- But we really need your help on the Carson River on the bridge, the bank stabilization and the river restoration, the bank stabilization and channel maintenance. And we can't, I mean, our minimum is 150, otherwise we lose. I talked with Rob Holly this morning, and we lose our matches if we drop below 150.
Well, I'm looking at the. Yeah,
I feel your pain. I think we all feel each other's pain.
well, I know it's kind of like I need to just go out and reach out and find another 300 grand, but I'm like,
Well,
Start
you
writing
have-
grants,
I
yeah.
mean, you cut human services. One of the big places of discrepancy is human services. You cut 50 and the rest of us cut 150. I don't know if that's something you're willing to look at.
God, I hate cutting human services.
Oh, yeah, we all do. I mean, but they do excellent grant work, and this made their job easier, and it's still $350,000 easier this year than it was last year. If we go that route.
Mr. Chair, I have highlighted the ones where there's differences between the proposals.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm looking at two things. Even though I took away from the Boys and Girls Club, I'd like to put some back there because that was leverage money for them.
Okay, so why don't you buck that up to the
Right.
125, and then we agree on that.
Well, I'd like to get them to 200, but I don't know how I'm going to get them there.
I'd love to keep them at the 275.
Well, yeah, I know, but it was a flop to get the asphalt.
I mean, we can negotiate on the records restoration project. Maybe, I mean, I'll drop 30 off that. That'll at least keep us going on it. So Josh, if you want to take 30 off the records restoration in my column.
Yeah, I mean, where would you like it allocated to, sir?
Right now, just leave it in contingency. Can you see your way down on that one?
Oh, man. Okay, so
I mean, you could free up 130 if you agreed with us on 11, on human services and the records. And then reallocate some of that to the 125 to match us, and then move towards the conservation district.
So the 150 for the bank stabilization and channel maintenance, where does that actually get them to? If we give them the 150?
Well, what do you mean? Where does it get them to? That, I mean, they've got other monies that they come in, they bring the people in to replant the seedlings. Get in
You
there with
said this
river.
is leverage. You keep using the
This is
word
leverage,
leverage.
right? They come in with everything. Rob, are you on the line? Are we seeing
Yes,
Rob?
sir.
Okay, Rob, can you answer Commissioner Keller's question on that, please?
Yes, ma'am. And
Hey,
yes,
Ron.
sir. Good morning. We have $50,000 that's waiting from the Carson Truckee Water Conservancy District. There's 100,000 from Carson Water Subconservancy District, 118 from That is Carson Water Sub-Conservancy District. The 50,000 from Carson Truckee, there's 100 from NDOT. And then there's also a grant cycle coming up this fall with the Division of Environmental Protection 318 program, which is from the US EPA. So between all of those, we're going to have to phase the project into a multi-year project. And right now we're sitting right at that spot with that 150 where we can do it. Anything less, and I know you have hard decisions to make, but we probably will end up reallocating some of those other funds and not doing this project at all. If the funds aren't made available from you guys, it leaves us too short to even phase it.
Okay, so if we gave you 50,000, you just wouldn't be able to do the project. There's no other monies that can come from anywhere else.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I can answer that as well, being on the board. There's nothing else we could do. The phased approach wouldn't work, and we would lose those monies to other projects.
Chairman Gray, this is Rob. Am I coming through? I hate to interrupt.
Loud and clear, Rob. Go ahead.
Could we, and I hate to be a pain, I apologize again. Is there a way we could go down through that list as where we're kind of at right now? I agree that Carson River project is important. It's not being able to see the screen. Could I just hear where we're at on those columns real quick?
Whose column do you want to hear? Because we still have differences in each column. That's kind of what we're doing right now is
if you're not, Commissioner or Chairman Gray, if you're not working on one yet, then I'll just continue to listen in.
okay. Yeah, we're not down to one yet. We're still trying to rectify discrepancies.
All right, thank you.
And also,
No,
Hold on, Commissioner Keller.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Wes. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Keller. I'm just looking at your column as Commissioner Gray did to bring things in line. Also on the Community Resource and Response Center, you still have 350 there. If you drop that to 300, that would free up another 50 on your end.
Right. Well, I was kind of looking at that, maybe pulling 50 from there to put back into the boys and the learning center, the Boys and Girls Clubs Learning Center, to help them leverage. Because that's actually leverage money. It doesn't pay the project.
So that would actually get you to where we are on those basically. So that would rectify those two
Yeah,
columns.
so yeah, take that to 3, put that 50 in the Boys and Girls Club. It doesn't get them exactly where they need to be, but it gets them closer.
So
The
Rob,
Carson River Bank is the one that I'm trying to find 150,000, because even if I take 100 from Human Services, that still puts them, what Rob just said, still 50,000 short.
I'm going to make a change to my column real quick, just based on what you did, Vida. Rob, Josh, can you bring mine up to 129.2 and then bring the 4,200 from contingency? Do you want to do the same thing?
I think, well,
we're just trying to get parity here.
I know, just
Okay.
but the 4,200.
We're just trying to. I'm just trying to get 3 columns that
Right,
are essentially like.
Sure, I'll play fair. I'll play nice.
If we can agree on the little things, and we just hammer out the big ones, and
I'll play nice. It's $4,000. I'm not going to die for $4,000.
yeah. So we can turn those columns white. Those aren't columns, I guess. Those lines.
Oh, Chairman Gray, though, we're getting to the point where, we're $1 here and $1 there. J and K, column J and K are almost identical.
Yeah, we're just trying to.
We've got 300,000+ contingency. We needed 300,000 to 400,000. We're at a point where, we're playing back and forth.
Just trying to build the consensus before we take action, just so nobody has any
So-
heartburn.
Yeah, and
Real quickly, Josh, can you pull, I hate going there. Pull 100 out of human services and put it to the Carson River. Then pull 30 from the records and put it to Carson River. And pull the last 20 out of contingency. I was trying to stay no less than the 400,000, but I'm gonna be 8,500 short.
Really the difference now is Mound House.
well,
That's it.
well, Mound House, and plus I still have the contingency for the bucking shoots.
Yeah.
The 30,000
Right.
that neither Commissioner Gray or Commissioner Keller have included.
Okay, I will, it's almost like we're playing a game.
We are.
So Commissioner Keller is down to 300. Uh, 36 is, 36 is. Oh, God, I hate to do this. Pull 50 from, yeah, there you go, Josh. Throw that into contingency also for the, which one did you just say that was, Webb? The, West, there you go, yeah. 30 there and then 20 back to contingency fund. I mean, it's a contingency fund. It's going to be a holding place for emergencies and, you know, if other things arise, so it's still.
Yeah, Mr. Foley, go ahead and take the other 50,000 in my column out of the Mound House Community Center and add that to contingency. And just to make the match, go ahead and add the $800 that I don't have for the asphalt in there. 195,800. And then I'm.
So we are only place.
Yeah, we're close.
Yeah. Vida, would you be willing to take?
Oh, I was just gonna say, Josh, so, yeah, put the whatever that dollar number is there to make it the same on the asphalt out of contingency, and that should match us up.
That matches everybody perfectly.
It's still less contingency and I wanted to go with.
I totally get that one.
Where are
I'm
we?
just,
We're off a little bit somewhere.
yeah, well, where we're off is on mine and commit, not speaking from Commissioner Gray, but I still have
Where are we?
$65,000 for the tennis courts. I'm willing to drop that down to 50 as well, and then and put that in contingency.
Yeah, we can do that on both of them. And if that comes back in higher, I built in that contingency, but if that comes
Right.
back in higher, we can go to contingency.
And then I think they're.
That takes us all to the same spot.
Will be.
All right, Rob, you ready to run down the numbers? I'll have Josh.
Say, go down the numbers for Rob now.
Yeah. Rob, can you hear us? Did we lose Commissioner Jacobson? Well, on the off chance, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so I'm
I
gonna
got
have, so we've all three come to, or all four of us come to a consensus, so we're gonna have Josh read the numbers off to you by line. Have you got a second to listen to that?
Yes, please.
Okay, do you want me to read the changes from the original, or do you want me to just go line item by line item and read what's there?
Line item, fine.
Line by.
Okay, so Lyon County for personal protective equipment and supplies, 47,500. Lyon County Jail for prevention and congregate settings, 47,500. Lyon County for COVID testing, $5,000. All of these have remained the same. Lyon County for human services for indigent assistance, childcare assistance, behavioral health is a decrease of 150,000, and the ending result is 350,000. Lyon County Parks Repairs and Maintenance, 50,000. Lyon County IT Smith Valley Internet, 8,500. Lyon County Dayton Sewer Rolling A, $1,500,000. Lyon County Dayton Sewer Ribs Effluent Disposal, 2.2 million. Lyon County Lift Station 2, 1 million. Willow Creek GID Effluent Disposal, 300,000. Silver Springs GID, those are reversed. That should be like that. 50,000 for Willow Creek GID. Central Lyon County Fire Protection District, and that should be one ambulance now, but it's 300,000. Mason Valley Fire Protection, 200,000. Smith Valley Fire Protection, 200,000. North Lyon County Fire Protection, 300,000. North or Lyon County, one drone, $34,336.97. Lyon County Fernley Justice Court, 2.2 million. Lyon County replace or maintenance on tennis court at Dressler Park, 50,000. Eliminating, I should have said we eliminated the 4 motorcycles, eliminating the human services, senior center tables, chairs, and cleaning equipment. Redo Miller Lane and Iazi intersection engineering for 120,000. Reconstructs Ramsey Weeks Road for 400,000. Records restoration for recorder decreased from 60,000 to 30,000. Lyon County Mountain House Community Center decreased from 1 million to 300,000. City of Fernley Community Response and Resource Center decreased from 350,000 to 300,000. Boys and Girls Club E.L. Wigand Early Learning Center decreased from 275,000 to 129,200. Dayton Conservation District Carson River Bank Stabilization decreased from 200,000 to 150,000. Eliminate the Dayton Valley Dog Park grass restoration, park repairs and upgrades. Lyon County replacement asphalt, add 30,000, so it becomes 195,800. Eliminate the concrete slab for the standing huts at the fairgrounds. The new bucking chutes at the fairgrounds increase to 136,000. The Silver Springs Mutual Water Company for a generator, 205,000, and then contingency of $361,806.03. So that's what we have before us. One comment for the board, if I could, Mr. Chair.
Please.
On the Smith Valley Internet, we have determined that without spending probably about $25,000 more, we can't provide that. However, the existing vendor for internet services at the library, which is providing it free of charge to us, which is Preferred Networks, has agreed for us to allow us to put a radio between that and the Justice Court and to utilize that as the internet. So I believe we can pay for that out of the existing IT budget for the small radio that needs to go up between there. And you could reduce that and potentially reduce a little bit out of contingency and fund the concrete slab at the fairgrounds, because you're talking almost the same dollar amount.
Yeah, Chairman Gray, I think that Josh Foley is reading my mind, because for the last 14 months, I've just asked for a satellite dish. And as we all recall, Silver City got one put up for $79 a month. So, you know, we'd have about, I don't know, 100 a month there or something. I was thinking the same thing, that if we could just get that dish up and start paying a monthly fee, or if they'll do it for free or put in a radio, that would be great. And then we'd have $8,500 to put towards the concrete at the fairgrounds.
And they will do it for free, and we have ordered the dish already.
So let's do it and get it done soon.
Yes, that's a huge one. Okay, go ahead and make that change. And before we actually take any action on this, Josh, what I'd like to do is I would like to change the purpose, actually match what the allocation was for. So there's no confusion going forward. You know, well, we thought we were getting, you know, X number of ambulances, or, you know, the road was going to be reconstructed for $400,000, you know, just so we can actually have our allocations in alignment with what we approved.
I think Central Lyon is, I'm not positive if it's still 2 ambulances or if it's 1 ambulance.
I think it was 2. They were looking at like 150
Okay, so we'll
each.
leave that. We're going to change this to 1 drone.
Yep.
185 a piece, I think we looked at that.
And let's see, what else do we
So
have?
Miller Lane, Iazi, that was just for engineering, wasn't it?
Yes, true.
So can we pull that, yeah, redo off? And then, yeah, get rid of that reconstruct?
Yeah, we can't reconstruct it for 400,000.
No, but there's people out there that would say, well, you said you were gonna reconstruct it.
Okay, am I missing anything else, sir?
Mount House Community Center, you might want to relabel that a little bit too. They're not actually getting a center for,
Yeah, it's more like feasibility.
Well, it was, yeah, architectural and engineering, exactly.
right?
That all look good to everybody else?
You know, I did have one question, though, Chairman Gray, and I would imagine that Josh Foley might be able to answer this, or someone in facilities, you know, a generator for $205,000. I just had a generator put in 24 kilowatts to power my entire house for $12,000. How do we come up with a generator for $205,000? That just seems outrageous.
Yes,
Josh
Mr.
Foley, Lyon
how do we
County.
do that?
So the current draw on the well, which is a very large production well,
Right.
is significantly more. And so we actually went back and had that conversation with Silver Springs Mutual Water Company and took a look at it. And unfortunately, that is the price for that size of a generator that they need. Not that I prefer it. I would rather, you know, fund a few houses like that, but
Yeah.
that's what they're needing for that size.
So
of
it's
a
also
pump.
backup power for the entire community, correct?
Is it?
Well, for all of their water.
It was
yes.
a joke. It was a joke. It was a joke. Okay, so it looks like, actually, I'm gonna go back to Mr. Jacobson. Rob, how'd those look to you? Did you have any consternation with any of it?
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Well, cuts never make anyone happy. So I know we're cutting into different stuff. But I don't know. Spending $2.2 million on the justice court drives me nuts. When we could be spending money on kids to keep them out of the court system, but it's what it is. Thank you, sir.
I'm still willing to go meet with Fernley with you if you want to set up a time and a place. And
I think we
be somewhere else. I mean,
no, I'm fine in the process for the sake of moving this on.
okay. Anybody else in chambers or online? Commissioner Keller, you get your hand raised?
Didn't want to unmute. Anyways, I guess my computer said I talked enough today. I just want to point out, I mean, I know we're, you know, looking to approve what's before us. And I totally get Commissioner Jacobson's pain on this, because I was trying to leave as much money when it comes to the learning centers and the kids and stuff, because that we got to stop it, the problem there, so it doesn't get to the courts, but we still have to deal with the courts. I'm hoping, I mean, you know, inflation's just flat killing us, but I'm hoping that, you know, any of these projects that we approve under these funds, that if anything is found to be a savings, that, you know, that can go back into the contingency to maybe help in some of those other areas. You know, to me, not everything is always set in stone. We do the best we can. We take a stab at it today, and you know, we don't stop looking for savings and cuts and grants. You know, we don't just walk away today and stop looking. So
Thank you. And you are still popular. We still love you. Commissioner Huckabee, Commissioner Henderson. Right.
Nope, I'm ready for a motion on this.
That look on your face. Sorry, Dave. All right, I am going to go to Josh and Jeff and see what your thoughts are on this somewhat final set in Play-Doh solution.
Set in Play-Doh.
Jeff Page for the record. So all kidding aside, I would hope that whatever decision we make today, we're not going back again.
That's, God, isn't that the truth?
I mean, not everybody's gonna get funded the way they want to get funded. Not everything's gonna get funded the way we want it to get funded. But I believe in regards to the majority of the items, we can get what needs to be done. The community center is a perfect example. Let's figure out what it is we want to build, and then we can figure, once we have that design, we can move forward from there. So with that, I'll turn over to Josh, his concern.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate the board's discussion today. Appreciate all the work with each other we've been doing. The one thing I would like, if there's a motion to be made, is to authorize the county manager to authorize the contingency funds to be used on projects. So as an example, if the drone comes in $500 more, we don't have to bring it back to the board for it, or so on and so forth. And maybe you want to look at a reasonable amount that contingency can be allocated, but allow the county manager on your existing projects to allocate up to the amount of contingency.
What about a percentage as opposed to a dollar amount? Because I mean, some of these are so varied that
They
I think a
are.
percentage would probably be more.
You currently have a resolution that allows me to sign for up to 20% contingency on.
That's what I was
regular
doing.
projects.
Okay. Thank you.
And I would also recommend that if you do that in that motion, that you also require staff to bring back a report if we use the contingency funding so the board knows what we've done.
Okay.
And if possible, if items come in underneath what they're budgeted for or what is allocated, that the county manager can, within that realm, move some of those monies around as needed.
I
Up
would
to
like
you.
to see, I'd like to go back into contingency.
Okay, so then if they come under, then that gets put back into
Yeah.
contingency. That would be
It's
acceptable.
It's
And
a
that
tit for
leaves,
tat,
that leaves us in the percentage for contingency. That'd be
yep,
great.
and that still allows him the flexibility to, but it's got to go back through contingency and be bound by those rules.
Yeah.
So, okay, and I do want to go on the record and say, I know there are folks here that wanted to add projects today. But as you can see, we've had a very hard time just dealing with what we have in front of us and actually omitting projects from what we've got. And that's why I did make the decision not to allow any more projects to be basically shopped to us today or brought back, because, you know, we're just in the position of making so many cuts. I don't believe it would have been in the, the best fiduciary interest of what we had before us today. And, you know, I apologize, but I don't think it worked. That being said, I am looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this budget as changed from our previous budget and allocated as shown on our board.
To include the contingency, the
To
20%.
include the contingency fund at $357,878.03.
Second.
And let me clarify here real quick. And that was any funds that any projects came in under, the money goes back to contingency, correct?
Right, any
Okay.
money that's under would go back to contingency.
Thank you.
And the county manager is authorized. to
Well,
use-
that's already codified. Yeah.
Well, it is on construction projects, but it would be good to
wanna
clarify
clean her
this,
that way?
if you
Okay.
would,
Okay,
please.
so a contingency of, I think it was 20%
20%.
above to come out of the contingency fund.
Thank you. Commissioner Keller, does your second still stand?
Yes, it does.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion amongst the board members? And I'm going to look to Commissioner Jacobson first because I can't see him. So if you've got anything, sir, I want to give you this opportunity to bring forward.
I'm good, Chairman Gray.
Thank you. Hey, thanks for staying on the line with us.
You bet.
Commissioner Henderson.
I wish I
Nothing to add.
Okay. Commissioner Huckabee.
I said it.
Okay, and I have nothing. So at this time, I'm going to open it up for public comment. We are going to read the public comment again, just so you guys know. Okay. Citizens wishing to speak during this public comment are asked to state their name for the record and will be limited to 3 minutes. The board will conduct public comment for this item and before we take our action. So if you would, please, if you're online, raise your hand. If you're in-house, please line up over here along the collapsible door. Sir.
got my own timer going because I know I have a lot more than 3 minutes to say. For the record, Cody Wagner, Chair of the Fernley Community Foundation. Really appreciate your continued consideration for our community center project. As you know, we lost our city manager, so I've kind of had to take over as the face of the project. Just having the county as a partner in that is a big deal, even though we dropped $50,000 off of it, which isn't ideal, but I get you had to make some hard decisions today. It's a little frustrating that we've already kind of gone through this whole process before we even took public comment for me. I think there was a lot that could have been said from the audience that would have guided the process. And it seems like you guys have already made up a decision. City of Fernley had $21.5 million in ARPA funds. They've only allocated 20 million. There's still $1.5 million out there. I gotta believe they'd want to be a project partner on this justice complex. I think there's a wider conversation to be had about Fernley. We're 25,000 citizens. I serve on the planning commission. We got 500 units every single month being proposed. Fernley is going to be 35 to 40,000 people like that. We need to do something about public safety. We got Sheriff Honeywell here. His guys are still transporting people to YERINGTON. I get the Fernley Police Department idea is probably a long ways off, but at some point, Fernley is the largest incorporated entity in Nevada, not to be running its own public safety department. We need to start conversations, and I think this justice complex, to me, the more important part is expanding the substation and giving our police officers room. That's going to affect a lot more people than the justice complex would. Fernley allocated $1 million in CARES Act funding to specifically retrofit their council chambers to be able to do jury trials in there. I get what Mr. Page is saying about public safety. I think that's really important, but we could install metal detectors at both locations for a fraction of the $2.2 million cost. Without that justice complex, you guys could fund everything and have money left over. I think the ARPA funds, when they came out, they're really about getting money to the people who are struggling. And I know we've used this $10 million loophole to kind of fund the county's priority list. I feel like Silver Springs is really getting the short end of the stick on this whole thing. If I was a Silver Springs parent, I'd be really, really upset right now that we're funding projects in Dayton with the CARES Act. Fernley, Yerington, the Silver Springs kids are getting almost nothing. There was a food proposal that was brought up last time. Without that justice complex, there's leftover money to fund the Mound House Community Center, the food in Silver Springs, and really do something for the people who need the help to recover from the pandemic. And that's what the intent of these funds were originally for. So with that, a lot of good discussion today. Appreciate the comments. I know you had to make hard decisions, but I wish we would have had a better discussion about this justice complex. I also think there could be state funds that become available. They have $4 billion in ARPA funds that would help fund an unfunded mandate if that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good morning or noon or Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. My name is Sarah Adler. I am proud to be the president of the board of Healthy Communities Coalition, which serves all of Lyon County. I was hoping to have an opportunity to present to you the fact that we've reduced our request from $299,000 to $77,000 for the Silver Springs Food Pantry. And to use the language you've been using today, I think the question is, do Lyon County citizens want food or do they need food? And is feeding hungry people a good use of pandemic recovery dollars? Now, we at HTC, we don't have a choice. We have been told to exit our current location. We have asked for $77,000 for the first 2 years of operation there. We as a board asked our staff, can we afford to continue to do this? And they said, we have to. We feed more than 700 people a week at the Silver Springs Food Pantry. We feed more than 1,200 people a week, Lyon County citizens suffering from hunger. And look at the impact that inflation is having upon them. Inflation is hitting us hard too. We take food to 50 homebound residents in the Silver Springs area every week. So, and our pantry is more than food. It is a connection to critical community resources. We're great partners with the Human Services Department. We appreciate them so much. But because people come because they're hungry, we can directly connect them to other income supports like Medicaid, SNAP, and WIC. Now, you've had a really good discussion today. You have thought carefully about how to leverage things, how to start things. For example, the Mound House Architectural and Engineering. As some of you know, I used to be the state director of USDA Rural Development. If you have taken care of some upfront costs that will allow them to get a long-term low-cost loan from RD. This Main Street was built with rural development loans. That's how the Boys and Girls Club got started. Mason Valley Fire Protection District as well. So in summary, eating is not discretionary. And we're asking for your help. You've done a great job. We are hoping that contingency leans in the favor of proud, hungry Lyon County citizens. Thank you.
Morning. Chair, Commissioners, Wendy Madsen, Healthy Communities Coalition. First, I want to say I know how difficult your jobs are and how appreciated you are. I know being leaders is very difficult and there's hard decisions to be made. And I see all the efforts going into making the right decisions, and I appreciate that. I'm really standing here right now as I feel an expert in our community members, not as a leader. We see, not only do we serve over 800 families per week, we have conversations every single day with them. In our schools, our coalition serves hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of families in the same respect through conversation and understanding what's needed. And as I listen to cuts in behavioral health, I'm going to plead with you not to cut behavioral health. I don't know how much you're aware, our families are in serious crisis. Our kids, our suicide ideation, our substance use, we are in big trouble in our communities. This little food pantry, these food pantries are prevention, because if I don't have food for my kid, I got more problems than you will ever know. Substance use is used as a coping mechanism for mental health right now. So if I don't have my lights turned on and I don't have food and I don't have a safe place that's stable to go, we are in absolute insecurity right now in our Silver Springs food pantry. Yes, there's some fault I am absolutely going to take the blame on for mismanaging a partnership. But that's me. We're talking about the people that are being served, are affected. They're going to suffer. We're moving again. Ideally, we will find a way to purchase property so we have stability. Right now, our solution is immediate for lease of a property, about $75,000 a year. I will tell you right now, we have used indirect general funds for a youth work program that costs about $75,000 each summer to keep fidelity. Are we going to have to cut that? 40 youth will be employed this summer with human services, with private industry, and that comes with field trips, mentorships for our employers. It comes with enrichment, substance use prevention. This comes out of our general fund. We don't have funding for this. We're always looking. I hear about the grants, and that's great, but our needs are out of control right now. You're not going to be able to match it with funding. You're not going to be able to find all these grants because everybody's in the same boat, and the need is just exploding. So I would appreciate reconsideration. I know this comes late and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else in the chambers or online? All right, Mr. Page, are we going to say something or? Oh, okay. So we have a motion and a second. Discussion is over. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor of the motion before us signify by saying aye.
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 Rob?
Of the nay.
Okay. All opposed, nay, and Commissioner Jacobson has gone on the record as a nay. The motion passes 4-1.
Chairman Gray,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank you guys again for letting me phone in, and I apologize to the public and everybody else for not being there. That's not, my son's in surgery and I gotta jump in, so I'm gonna be leaving. I will catch you here in a little bit.
You're good, boss. Hey, and thank you for staying on the line with us, and we'll keep your son in our thoughts and prayers. Take care, buddy.
All right. Yep, bye.
All righty, item number 5 is complete. We will go to commissioner comments. We'll start online with Commissioner Keller.
I just want to say that, hey, that's not exactly where I wanted to be in all of this. But I think we came to a consensus amongst the board doing the best that we could. As you know, the first round we did this, I was the nay in the room. Even though we didn't get where I wanted to be, I think we worked very well together in putting together what we've got. And so let's, like I said before, let's keep looking for places to cut money, other funding sources, and maybe we'll still get more out of this before it's over. Short of inflation just taking it all.
Thank you, Commissioner Keller. Commissioner Hockaday.
No further comments.
Commissioner Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank all of my colleagues. I think these were difficult decisions. I think we did them, we handled them fairly and in a courteous manner. I think we came to a good conclusion. Would I like to fund everybody with everything they wanted? Absolutely. But that's not the realities. I do think that we need to do something to help out Healthy Communities Coalition, and I'd probably be asking for an agenda item in the future to direct staff to see how we can come up with something, because you guys do fascinating work, and we certainly appreciate what you do for our citizens that need your help. But this probably wasn't the right pot of money, but that doesn't mean we're not going to keep looking. And that's all I have to say, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I just want to thank everybody today. And, I don't think this is where any of us wanted to be. We got to do some good, got to alleviate some pain on some projects, but, nobody, nobody was a complete winner and nobody was a complete loser, but thank you guys. And with that, going to adjourn the meeting. Oh, no, final public participation. I'm sorry. Anybody online? Okay, we are adjourned.